Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rates and the Races. So I've had a look at the handicap marks, had a look at those that have dropped, and I've come up with a few that are interesting from those. There's also a couple I want to talk about that haven't actually changed in their handicap marks, and also one that just caught my eye, a comment from an owner this week that has caught my eye. So we'll start off with the usual handicap droppers. And the first one I wanted to talk about was McFabulous, who's dropped £1 to 150 on collateral form, which is always a bonus, I'm sure, for owners when they see that. Obviously, it can go the other way. And a couple of years ago, we had Damned Company who went up £2 on collateral form, and JP and Nicky Henderson argued it, got it knocked off, and then she won the Coral Cup quite impressively. Would have won with that £2 collateral form boost, you would imagine. But anyway, let's talk about what we're meant to be talking about. McFabulous dropped £1. Now, I highlighted last video on the handicap drops that I thought McFabulous for the Coral Cup could be interesting. I don't think he stays the 3 mile. He's ran okay at Cheltenham before, including this second over the 2.5 mile trip, and running off top weight in a handicap I think could be very interesting. It might not even get top weight off 150. Paul suggested on the 29th of January that he thought McFabulous was going to play a big part turning in, and I think a lot of people did. But then he just got tired, doesn't stay this trip. But dropping into a handicap I think could be interesting, and I think his participation could even not depend, but they might look at that depending on how Brave Man's Game runs at the weekend. Now, he's actually doing something similar. Being a graded horse, he's got a relatively high handicap mark, but not high enough that it's beyond him. And they're going to run him in the novice handicap chase over 3 mile, rather than the grade 2 Denman chase at Newbury. So that could give them an idea of maybe we do that with a few of our other horses that aren't quite good enough for the graded events, especially over the 3 mile trip. But maybe we could find something over 2.5 in a handicap. Now, McFabulous looks that sort of type. And I think the 150 mark is definitely within his reach in a handicap. So the Coral Cup would be interesting. There's no price for him in the Coral Cup. I've had a look. You can't find a price for him in the Coral Cup. I'm not going to ask for it because they always give you less than what they should do, and because you've requested it. So it'd be interesting to see if he does get an entry in the handicap, and if he does, what sort of price they put McFabulous in at. But I think a good run or a win, hopefully, for Brave Man's Game at the weekend would definitely, hopefully, encourage I'd contradict myself there, would hopefully encourage the trainer to think about, have I got any other horses that are high in the handicap, but good enough for handicaps? Itchy Feet being another one that we hope to see in the Grand Annual. Moving on to Voidarev. Voidarev dropped £1 to 135 after finishing third in a race that he didn't stay again. Hopefully they drop him back in trip. Now, I know they were trying to win the lucrative More Battle Hurdle last year, and he ran really disappointingly. He finished 10th, was well beaten. Granted, he's dropped in a handicap, but even taking that into account, I wouldn't be suggesting he would go there with a great chance. Where do I think they could run him, though? What about the Imperial Cup at Sandown? Now, if they're trying to win a race to go and then run at Cheltenham for a bonus, I don't think they'd win the bonus, because I don't think he'll win at Cheltenham. But if they're looking for that, then maybe they want to have a look at the Sandown race. He's only had the one run at Sandown, and he was second way back here for Willie Mullins, behind Wolf of Windlesham. Now, the race worked out reasonably well, and it just shows that he can run well at Sandown. It's only the one run, but he's had the one run at Kelso, and he's ran poorly. So, of the two, where would you go? I think the Sandown race. It's also less likely to feature the better horses. I think the Kelso race, because of the prize money, will attract a slightly better standard of rivals. So the Sandown race looks an ideal opportunity for Voidarev to run in and hopefully run a big race there, if they want to do that. Moving on to Call Me Lord. Obviously, I highlighted in the previous video that the Aintree handicap is where they should go, I think, with Call Me Lord. And he dropped £2 to 142. He is well handicapped. I don't think he wants a 3-mile trip. I think a 2.5-mile trip at Aintree in a handicap will be perfect for him. And I would expect a really big run there. He's been to Aintree before. He was here. He was 5th. If you said to me, I think he's gone off, I've not written it down, I think it was like £21 higher last year when he ran at Aintree. But that could be, no, that's if the cap fits. That's the next video, next horse, or one of the next horses. But Call Me Lord has definitely dropped in the handicap. He looks well handicapped. He just didn't. He came there travelling all right at Sandown, made a mess of the second last, and then didn't really pick up after that. But I don't think he stays that 3-mile trip. Drop him back to 2.5, to stay in a handicap. Go to Aintree where he's run well before. Here he was 4th. Here he was 5th. But these are better races. These are Grade 1 races. And I think he'll go very well. The next horse I want to talk about was Paddle Your Own Canoe, who he finished 8th and was dropped £2 to 133 over fences. Now, he was also dropped £2 to 133 over hurdles. Now, I hope they go back over fences. And I think they had tried to plan the Classic Chase at Warwick. And obviously, it all went wrong when he lost his irons. I think the jockey did and had to pull him up quite quickly. They dropped him back to hurdles and dropped him back in trip to 3-mile. And he looks like he didn't have the speed for that. He ran on okay. But as you can see, if you look at his ratings, he was top rated when he went to the Classic Chase at Warwick. He was RTR 15 at Sandown. He didn't have a chance at Sandown, basically, but he did when he was over fences. And I hope they go back over fences next time. And at the Midlands National, go back up in trip. Dan Skelton has a good record at Uttoxeter. That's where I want to see Puddle Your Own Canoe next. Back over fences, back up in trip, and in a handicap that he could win. The next horse, If the Cap Fits, has dropped £5 to 137. And if Ben kept the ride, I think it could go well in the Thames final. But I wouldn't mind seeing them switch it to Sean Bowen. Now it's off such a low mark. Sean's got a really good record on If the Cap Fits, has ridden him a few times and done really well aboard him. Now, I felt Ben kind of, it's not that he gave up. He didn't really get after If the Cap Fits, thinking that the race had gone. And it wasn't until after the last that he absolutely flew up the finish to get up for 5th somehow. Now, last year when he went to Cheltenham for the Stayers Hurdle, he only went off 25 to 1. Now, I'm saying only. It's not that big a price really for a Stayers Hurdle, 25 to 1. It's not like he was 100 to 1 no Opa. 25 to 1 shots do win the race. This year, he could return to Cheltenham in the Thames final off a £21 lower mark than when he ran at Cheltenham in the Stayers Hurdle. Now, I know that's not a handicap, but if you took £21 off him and sent him to the Stayers Hurdle last year, he wouldn't be 25 to 1. It would be if you said he was allowed to carry £21 less, he'd go off 5 to 1, 6 to 1 sort of price. In the Thames final, I think you can get still what can you get about him? Let's have a look. If the 33s, 28s, if you want to take the non-runner no bet, if he turns up in that race, I think he'd actually run a really big race. I think he's got some Cheltenham form. He's got the ability. It just didn't, it was a better ride last time in terms of tactics. Maybe he was too far back. Sit him slightly further forward, and I think he'll run really well in the Thames final. Problem is, there's a few I like for the Thames final, and it will all come down to, on the day, if I've not backed them, non-runner no bet, on the day, who do I like? But I wouldn't be against having, 5, even 6 in a race sometimes. If I've got 25s, 28s, 33s about the horses that I really think can run big races. If you do get a winner, we say it wins at 25s, and you've backed 6 of them, you lose 5, but you gain a 25. So, you're plus 20 for the race. Granted, if you lose them all, you're negative 6. But it all depends on whether you really believe that you can find those big price horses, and I do think I can. So that's the kind of angle I look at for the big handicaps. The next horse that caught my eye was Bundoran. He dropped £4 to 130. Him and Gunsight Ridge just went a mad pace at Sandown. I don't know whether they'd been told they have to lead, and when neither of them wanted to give up the lead, they just kept going, and it was an absolute mad gallop. They went far too fast. Gunsight Ridge dropped £1 and could be interesting, but I wasn't sure where they'd go with him. I thought maybe the Grand Annual. I looked at the Grand Annual for Bundoran because he's ran well in the Grand Annual before, but I don't think off 130 is going to get in. So I hope they go to Aintree with him. He's run in the Red Rum Handicap Chase at Aintree, and he's finished 3rd and 5th off of the same mark, 139. So off 130, I think he would go well. And to be fair to him, he's not been running poorly. I mean, his second, just 2 runs ago to Gunsight Ridge, was a very good effort. The trainer of Gunsight Ridge said we were confident we were going to win that. They were disappointed they got beat the time before, but that was by long press. His 4th at Cheltenham, his 3rd at Cheltenham, beaten both times by Editor Depict. They're not bad efforts at all. And yet the handicap has been quite kind, probably because of his age, and they've dropped him. The handicap has dropped him and dropped him. He's now down to 130. I think if he goes to Aintree and gets in off 130, he can certainly run a big race there, because although he's old, he's not actually a complete back marker yet. Mr. Coffee makes the list purely because I highlighted him and I was interested in what his mark was going to be. Handicapper left him alone off 137. Perfect. Now run in the Paddy Power Plate, please. Thinking, if he does, I think he'll go very, very well. What price is he? Let's just have a quick look. Mr. Coffee. You can see the odds didn't change on him. I think because they kind of felt the same as me. He was never going to win the Grade 2, but he could the Grade 1, but he can certainly be competitive of his handicap mark. Another horse who didn't change over in Ireland was Dunboyne. Now, I think that's the same reason why he didn't move. The price didn't really change despite appearing to run quite poorly. I don't think he did run that poorly. He started to get shuffled back, came to the second last and made a bit of a mess of it. Turned into the straight. Jack started to get after him. He started to close up again, and then Jack gave up. He's very interesting because he does have a qualification for the Thames Final. He is a short price though, and I wonder whether there's something a bit bigger price that we might end up backing, especially as we've got far too many in the Thames Final at the moment that we're interested in. Another one for the Thames Final is Dallas Depict. Now, Dallas Depict has something Dunboyne doesn't have, and that's Cheltenham Festival form. He's finished 2nd and 5th, I'm going to say. 2nd in the Martin Pipe in 2019 and 5th in the Martin Pipe in 2021. So he's got Cheltenham Festival form. I thought when he was 2nd, Punchestown in November, he ran a really good race. Davy Russell didn't really want to move. And he didn't seem to again at the weekend at Leopardstown. But he travelled so well, and you can see he travelled well. He shortened by 94.59% from his starting price. He reduced massively because turning into the straight, he looked like he was going to win it. And I actually put my hands on my head going, oh no, he's going to win it today. I want him to win it in the Thames Final. I want him to run in the Thames Final. If he wins, he's going to ruin his mark. Now, he didn't win. He didn't ruin his mark. He dropped £1. I think it was very interesting considering he finished 14th. And was well beaten. He dropped £1. I think in the UK they would have actually dropped him more if he'd been, if that had been at Ascot. I think the British handicapper would have dropped him £4 for that. The Irish handicapper is a bit more clued up with that, I guess. He only dropped him £1, but that pound could be the difference between winning and losing at the Cheltenham Festival. You can currently get 20s about Dallas Depict or 14s non-runner no bet. I think if I found someone that was doing 16s non-runner no bet, I say that they actually are. 16s isn't a bad price. I might hold on there and just wait, just because I've got so many in that race, and see the entries, because something that I like isn't going to run. They're not even going to enter it. So moving on to the next horse, and I think I've been highlighting different horses throughout the season, and somebody actually suggested, I'm surprised you haven't picked up Embittered yet. I was kind of watching him, but not really that interested in him. But I think they have planned it differently this year. Last year they turned up to the Cheltenham Festival in the Grand Annual. When he fell, I think he fell at the first or the second, he went off 9-2 favourite of a mark of 146 for the Grand Annual, having looked like he'd been plotted for the race. This year, he's kind of done the same thing, and yet there's not as much attention on him at all. If we look at when was the last time he could have actually won a race, it was when he won. If we look at his Punchestown effort, he was third. If we look at his Navan effort and his Leopardstown effort, now he's a handicapper. So all he is a handicapper. Let's have a look at these three races. He ran in a Grade 2 against Riviere de Tail, Cape Gentleman, and a few others that are rubbish. But Embittered finished where he should have done. If we have a look, he then went to a Grade 3 against Riviere de Tail again. He finished 6th, a little bit disappointing. But if they were never going to beat Riviere de Tail, what was the point of finishing second there and potentially going up in the weights? There wasn't. And the same last time out. He finished 5th of 5 that finished in a Grade 1. What's the point of getting close to winning that race, finishing third, going up £3, going up £4 for it? He's never going to win that race, so why get close? And I just think this could be a better plot this year, or almost a less pronounced. I think they were disappointed last year and they've crossed him off their list. He's not crossed off my list at all for the Grand Annual, and off 140 I think it would go really well there. You can currently get 20s, I think it's 14s, no bet at some places. But if he turns up and you can get 20 to 1 about him for the Grand Annual, he'll be one of mine for the Grand Annual. The final horse, no there's not, there's one more. The penultimate horse in this video is Eclair de Beaufort, or Beaufort. It's French. It's Eclair de, that one. So he's dropped £3 to 132. Now, his form this year has been quite disappointing. But if we actually look at his form last year, before he ran in the county hurdle, it wasn't great anyway. Fell, 15th, 6th. It's not that good. And then he finished 4th in the county hurdle. Now, this year, having dropped £3 for his recent effort, he's down to a mark of 132. And I think he'll get in off 132 in the county hurdle. He's got Cheltenham Festival form. That's what's very interesting about this horse. He was second in a Grand Annual a couple of years ago, off a mark of 149 over fences. He was 4th last year in the county hurdle, off a mark of 139, and he unseated at the last off a mark of 138, I think it was. This year, if he gets in with 132, £7 lower than when finishing 4th last year, when I actually think he was unlucky not to win the race. I think he got blocked off just at a couple of crucial times. He's moved away from Gigginstown, but that doesn't mean they're not involved in getting him handicapped and plotted for the race. If it's a Gigginstown horse, this horse is still, let's have a look what he is at the moment, 33s. If he was owned by Gigginstown, he's 16 to 1 still, or shorter, because they're like, they could be doing a plot. Because he's in lesser known colours, could be part of the plan to get him well handicapped, go back and run a really big race. And I think he will run a really good big race if he runs in the county hurdle. I wouldn't be as keen over fences in the Grand Annual, and I think they've got one for the Grand Annual, Gigginstown's, especially with Embittered. So if Claire de Beaufort runs in the county, I'd be very interested in him. And you can actually get 33 to 1 non-runner bet about him. And I actually think that's quite a good price. There might be one that comes on my Cheltenham selections very shortly. The next horse I want to talk about is based on this tweet from the McNeil family. People tweet things on here, and it says things like, let me try and remember what they put. They put, tell me you were born in the 90s without telling me you were born in the 90s. And people, I used to do this, blah, blah, blah. This could be, tell me he's running in the Grand National without telling me he's running in the Grand National. That's a perfect tweet from the McNeil family. He's entered in the National. He won't run at Punchestown because they don't want his mark to go up. I was worried that they might be thinking of running him in the Ultima. Granted, his mark wouldn't change if he won the Ultima because that's after the weights. But that worried me for two reasons. One, because I felt it might be too close to the Grand National date, and also because he would be a danger against our horses. They've come out today, the McNeil family, and reiterated that Kilteely Briggs has been planned and aimed at the Ultima. Can't imagine they'll run Iscaria 10 as well. So with that in mind, Iscaria 10 for the Grand National. I've already highlighted it in a previous video, but I'm really happy and confident that they are going to run him there. So that's it for this video. There's a few horses that I'm interested in. I probably will be having a go on Eclair de Beaufort at 33 to 1 non-runner no bet for the county hurdle. If he turns up and gets in off 132, I think he would go very, very close. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we have a great week, and look forward to what we've got the weekend, the Betfair Hurdle, which in my previous video I have posted a selection for that at, I think, 16 to 1. So enjoy the rest of the week and catch up soon.